In just a few moments, see if you can settle into your seat. Take a few deep breaths and close your eyes. On the surface, explaining seems like an innocuous and even at times a kind thing to do. If you're late meeting your friends at a restaurant, it would seem rude not to explain why you were late. Our justification for this is that if I don't explain why, then they will feel that I don't value them or their time. And on one level, they might very well take it that way. And there is nothing wrong with apologizing. But there are some hidden undercurrents to why we feel the urge to apologize and justify that we might be ordinarily unaware of. Bring to mind, if you can, a recent situation in which you felt the need to explain to someone else the reason why you did something. Feel how you felt like you were in the wrong in that situation. And as part of your regret over having been late, or having made a mistake of some sort, you felt the need to give the person a story about why you did it. Whether the story is true or false is irrelevant right now. Just bring to mind the situation and then feel into the body to see how it felt before you apologized and explained your mistake. Does it feel like a comfortable set of sensations? Where exactly can they be felt? Do you recognize that your need to explain seemed to be governed by this discomfort? We might say that we are a kind person, and it's just in our nature to make the other person feel better. But is this really the root of it? Stay in that situation and run the thought experiment of what would happen if you didn't tell them why you were late. If you just showed up, said, "I'm sorry," and left the topic hanging with no explanation. Does that feel uncomfortable in some way? If so, why might that be? If you feel like the other person might be upset and you're getting closer, are you really worried that you are causing the other person distress? Or is part of it that you are worried about how that other person is going to view you? Are you going to be seen as an inconsiderate jerk? Are they never going to invite you to dinner again? Are they going to defriend you? Feel into that fear. Feel the discomfort that brings up. Have you been laboring under the assumption that you need to be a certain way for others to accept and love you? Let's take a different angle on this now. Bring to mind a time when a family member, friend, or colleague has wanted you to do something that you really didn't want to do. It might have even been something that you really couldn't do. But did you feel a pang at the idea of saying no? Even if you really couldn't do it? And if you felt bad, but still needed to say no, could you just say no without an explanation? What happens if they ask you to drive them to the airport, and without saying that you yourself are going to be out of town at the time, you simply say, "No, I'm sorry," and leave it at that? Feel whatever comes up at that prospect. How does that feel in the body? Does it seem like some kind of conflict? Something unsettled or irritating? Good. So what would happen if you didn't explain why you need to say no? What are the ramifications that jump to mind? What makes these possibilities seem so bad? Again, is it because it reflects poorly on you as a family member or friend or colleague? Do you feel the need to softly pad all of your interactions so you can never be hurt? What would happen if you were seen the way you were afraid you might be seen if you don't explain yourself? Do you recognize that this all ties back to an underlying feeling of fear with a hint of guilt and shame? Have you always felt these sensations when you didn't live up to the expectations of others or yourself? Was this a sort of moral warning system that you were on the wrong path and needed to course correct? But then, did avoiding those sensations become an even stronger motivator of your actions than protecting your own boundaries or doing things which brought you joy in life? And why would explaining or justifying your actions be a resolution to this? Does it relieve the physical discomfort? Does all feel right in the world if only you can make them all understand? Is it because you no longer have to feel that shame or guilt or fear that has been an unpleasant companion throughout your life, even for just a few moments? There are, however, other ways to look at the downsides of explaining. Can you see that in this way you are manipulating others in the attempt to manage their feelings for them? In order for them to not feel angry with you, you are trying to alter their experience so that they will be understanding and forgiving of you. But you're removing their right to feel angry or sad, and you're making them feel guilty for all of the complaining they were doing before you arrived. You've suddenly made them into the villain for calling you an inconsiderate jerk before they learned that you were only late because you were saving a newborn puppy from the top floor of a burning skyscraper. This being said, our urge to explain, like all of our verbal indicators, should always be an alarm bell to look into what's going on in your experience right now. What are you afraid will happen if you don't explain and justify your actions? But this is not a license to go through the world being rude and inconsiderate. Apologizing is great, and there are times when not giving proper context to your actions can lead another person into unnecessarily wrong conclusions. Too many bad sitcom and movie plots are all based around a lack of basic communication. So this is not an edict that you should always remain stoic and never supply any reasons for your actions. The important thing is to notice what is in it for you. Where is the urge to explain coming from? And how uncomfortable would it be if you didn't? Lastly, if it feels like you are one who has the need to justify and explain yourself, I want you to examine your experience to find out where that you is who needs to be justified. Scan throughout the body for whatever feels like it could be a you who is in need of defense. And who is it that that explanation seems to be referring to? Who is the one who acted in a certain way and now believes it could be deemed as wrong and should have acted differently in the moment? Is there any proof that you could have acted differently? And can you find that controller anywhere in your experience? Sit now for a moment and reflect on this inquiry, and feel free to listen to it over and over again as needed to remind yourself what to look out for. And then, when you're ready, open your eyes and go about your life, bringing these new insights into your interactions with others and with yourself.